Are you saying that there's could be a lot of MKUltras walking around out there right now?
The occult have always used some form of mind control.
Right.
But I think what the Nazis helped them do was to perfect it.
It's a split personality.
Yes.
It's two different people living in the same body.
Television is a form of mind control. Every major university, their psych department was involved.
Well, they need the chaos in order to have the martial law, in order to do with us what they need to do.
That's to order out of chaos is the very foundation of what the Masons do.
Dr. Lake, MKUltra. What is MKUltra?
MKUltra back during the Cold War was illegal experimentation done on American citizens to facilitate creating alternate personalities to become the ultimate spy. Was one agenda, so that you could be a spy and not even know you were a spy.
Wait a minute. Roughly what year was this? What decade?
For late 40s. It was after World War II, and it went to about 1980. Officially, until they had the congressional records where Congress wanted information on it, and the CIA began to destroy massive records and say, we put it to rest.
And who was doing this?
Well, Cameron was doing it even in Canada. Dr. Cameron was also the founder of the American Psychiatric Association. Okay. Every major university, their psych department was involved. In fact, one of the problems I have with the False Memory Syndrome Foundation is all the ones who started it were the ones who used to be employed by the CIA.
Wow. So you telling me that the psychiatric department kind of married the government, the CIA, the intelligence department? They kind of came up with MKUltra.
It came up with that. We brought the technology. I think it was a part of Operation Paperclip. And so they brought over the technology. The occult have always used some form of mind control.
Right.
But I think what the Nazis helped them do was to perfect it. And in fact, it is done now in many ways within our society. Television is a form of mind control.
Yeah.
Because the strobing of the frequencies that they're using will put you in an alpha state less than 30 seconds, and so it actually shuts down your ability to filter what you watch, but it begins programming you emotively. You know, whether if they're trying to transform society, what they're trying to transform you from, they get you to fall in love with it. And so there's no logic to it. I have pastors tell me that one of the problems they have with the younger generation is they're literally telling them, I know this is what God's word says, but I feel he should have said something else. So there's that emotive programming.
Yeah. Now we know MKUltra is mind control, ultimate mind control. Why do they want to control our mind? What's the agenda?
I think the first agenda was to develop the super spy.
Okay.
But let's say you're a filmmaker.
Right.
And so you're going over into Europe, and you can have a part that has photographic memory that is giving certain classified information. You don't know it. You go sit in a cafe, a guy says a trigger word, you switch parts, and now the spy is up that delivers the information. Then you go back down, and let's say the KGB or somebody catches you, they can torture you and do anything, but you will swear you're not a spy, because to your front personality, you have no remembrance of being anything but a filmmaker.
Wow. Okay, so this was, we're kind of like a ballpark, so back in the 50s all the way to the 80s, how old would someone be, let's say in 1950, that they would do mind control on? What was the age?
Usually as a child.
Okay.
And then they would technically use, let's say, children of their fathers may have sexually abused little girls or little boys.
Okay.
They really, that's why I think one of the reasons why pedophilia now has gained such power, they use that. And there's also evidence that they would use a lot of people as support teams that were in the occult, because the occult knew that one of the first things you learn if you're going to be a witch is the greatest power you can ever have is a secret kept.
Wow.
And so they would keep their secrets. So like where we came from, where Mary wrote her book about, I think it folded somewhere between the 60s and the 80s when Congress began to investigate, but the occult had the technology and they continued using it to build their own power.
So if someone was a child in 1955, they were, say, 5 years old, I mean, today they'd be like roughly 60. Are you saying that there's a lot of could be a lot of MK Ultras walking around out there right now?
We hear from people all over the world that are about my age, between 50 and 65.
Right.
And they'll have missing time. There'll be entire years of let's say, elementary school they can't remember.
Right.
They'll have what the family calls extreme mood swings, which is actually different alters
Right.
coming up. And you can watch their life. Let's say if it was a female, and she was used as a sex slave, or what's called a beta.
Okay.
Now, in her life, she will go from one extreme to another. She will be a holiness with with the bun and the long dress, and then switching all the way over to only wanting to wear bikinis and to be very seductive. And
Wow.
you'll see this bounce back and forth their entire life because there's no stability.
It's a split personality.
Yes.
It's two different people living in the same body. Okay, so they program these people to be spies and all these other things. What are these program multiples doing now? The reason I'm asking is you see the Vegas shooter, okay? That guy was about maybe 50, 60 years old. And he does all this crazy stuff, kills these people in Vegas. And then he kills himself. Is there any chance he could be?
But the suicide programming is always at the end of whatever they do.
Yeah.
And what you hear from all their friends is, that can't be him.
Right.
That's not him, because
Right.
this guy is a good guy. This woman is a great woman.
They saw the other side of him.
Yeah.
They didn't see the split,
Yeah.
right?
And Russ Dizdar talks about it, because there were a lot of Lebensborn children that they just do it from generation to generation. It's a part of what they do with their families.
Wow.
And just the Lebensborn, I think the estimate was probably 24 million of them in North America.
Wow. How many MK Ultras would you say there is in America now?
Whether it's MKULTRA, the Monarch, or some variation.
Program multiple.
It could be as high as 75 million.
75 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that doesn't include all those that have been programmed either by university, TV.
My last question, do you think this is part of the end times? Do you think this fits into the end time agenda of the one world
I do.
government?
I think it has all been a premise to take us somewhere.
Okay.
Part of my take on the mark of the beast, if it is a high-tech nanochip,
Okay.
that is also controlling nanites in your body to help, let's say, rewrite your DNA.
Okay.
One of the things I'm seeing from transhumanism with the singularity is they're basically making a god. Okay, so what you want is to be able to commune with a God. Like us Christians, we have fellowship with the
Right,
Father.
right.
So you're communing with the singularity. And you're not going to do it with a phone. You're going to do it with a chip.
Okay.
And once you get there, it begins the hive mind. It begins guiding your decisions and your reality around you.
And are you saying that these 75 million roughly program multiples, MK Ultras, may be the heads of certain organizations that leads people into this because they are susceptible to it, obviously?
I think part of it's that, and I think a lot of them are just going to be what Russ Dizdar calls the Black Awakening,
Yeah.
where they're triggered, they create chaos to cause societies to absolutely crumble for the new order. Because they're looking for the phoenix. The phoenix will be a civilization that's one world that comes up out of the ashes. That's human 2.0.
Well, they need the chaos in order to have the martial law, in order to do with us what they need to do.
That's the order out of chaos is the very foundation of what the Masons do.
Wow. When we come back, one last segment with Dr. Lake. I'm going to ask you about MK Ultra, how it hit home for you, your wife. Stay with me.